everyone. Welcome to Real Dad Speak. Each week, we showcase a dad who tells us his philosophy about fatherhood and shares his personal stories and the lessons he's learned about raising his children. Today, we want to talk about the notion of two parent homes, where if the father's in the home, the children are going to be better off because they have a mom and a dad. But what about when that father and mom are in the home, but the dad is just a provider? He doesn't engage with the children. He goes to work and he takes care of the bills. And also, he gets to, back in the 50s and 60s, he was a disciplinarian. So when he came home from work and a kid had gotten in trouble, mom would say, wait till your father gets home. So they wait in their room until their dad gets home. Then dad would either go in there and give them a long talk, or he beat the hell out of them and tell them don't do it anymore. So we just want to talk about dads being in the home. Whether what difference does it make if they're actively involved or if they're just there as providers, like a checkbook that walks in and out of the door. So today I'm talking with my producer, Q Lewis, the greatest producer in the whole wide world. And we're going to get some of his thoughts on when a man is in the home, a dad is in the home, but not necessarily active with the kids.
All of the fathers that you've had on so far, um, these are active fathers that we're talking about, right? So the thing is I think is a common misconception is that just because there's two parents in the household, that like automatically things are supposed to be better, right? Now I know you had Calvin Mann on a couple of maybe a month or two ago, and he's really an advocate of fathers being in the home. And obviously, I know he's got some statistics that prove that fathers being in the home, especially for daughters, they turn out to be better citizens. But what I will say is that being a product of a two family, or I'm sorry, a two parent household, I think there are some misconceptions as far as like what that father needs to be doing inside the home in order for those things to be to be successful. Now again, I guess I'm a good candidate because I turned out pretty okay. I guess like I never spent a lot of time or not any time in jail. Let me say that. Never really gotten into trouble, and I do believe that is because I had a father in the household. But I will also say that I've seen other dads, even the fathers who have been on this show, that are way more active than my father like ever was. And that's no knock to him. It's just that, like you mentioned in the intro, a lot of fathers, they come from an era where as long as the bills are paid and we're not getting evicted and kicked out on the street, then I've done my part. So like there's no emotional attachment, and I can't even put it on them. So for my generation, we're talking about parents from the 60s and 70s. Now I kind of actually think that it came from their parents. Like they got something from the fathers who were like at that point seriously just providers. Like they never even learned affection. Some of them, and I think it's funny because I think back to like my grandfather and the interactions between my grandfather and my grandmother, and I see those same things with my dad and my mom before she passed away, and it's a thing. So I because I noticed it, I try to be different. Now at this point, I don't actually have any children, but like with my nieces and nephews, I try to kind of feel that emotional void because I for a long time, uh, displaying emotions is just not a man. It's not a man thing, or like it was never perceived to be a man thing. So but there obviously is an upside to having a father in the home, but I think there does have to be some attention to what's actually being done by that father. Like cutting the check is just cutting the check, right?
Right. Right. So um, the your friends whose dad were active. Did you have friends that whose dad was active in their lives? Like every week when they were off, or every weekend
Hmm.
they were out there throwing the ball, going fishing, sitting on the porch talking, playing catch, or anything like
Hmm.
that. Were your friends like that?
We I had one buddy whose dad was like that, and he actually would come outside and play basketball with all of us, and play football with all of us. So like one, like out of all the out of all the friends I had, I had like one seriously, and that's actually Dale. Dale's father was the one who really kind of interacted with us. Others, and we had quite a few, and this is something too though that we talk about often, that we kind of laugh about, but it's honestly not funny. But we're in an area where there's quite a few of us who live in a two-parent home, and
Mhm.
that doesn't happen all the time. Like
Right.
a lot of us kind of got lucky with that. I'll admit to that. But I think as far as like interactive and being that type of father, I think maybe I've experienced that with one friend, and I think where the realization came from was shout out to my brother-in-law, who I just call my brother now, Angry Principal. Like his name to be out here. So Angry Principal. But the thing is, he used to tell us stories about how his old man had a repair shop, and like every Saturday he would take him and his two brothers up to the repair shop, and they just talk and work on cars and just talk about life, that kind of thing. And I was just thinking like, wow. I've never experienced that, and I never felt like I was missing out on something. But then when I would hear those stories, I was like, I wonder what that would be like. Now, in hindsight, or on the flip side rather, that's the relationship that me and my father have now. Once I became an adult, it was like I found out who this guy was the whole time. Like I never even knew who he was. You know what I'm saying? But we never wanted for anything. And he was the disciplinarian. But like I didn't know who he was, and by no fault of his own. So once I became an adult and we were able to have conversations that I at that point could initiate, I didn't have to wait for him to initiate them. Then we became like that much closer. So it's a thing. You can live in the same house with a person and never have a clue as to who they are.
I think that's for marriage too, but that's another
That's
story
a
for another day.
yeah, whole nother one.
I think now with Dale's dad, I think it's the type of job that the men have, the shift that they're working, and also the number of people that they have to provide for. The reason why back in the day,
Hmm.
or even now, they that allow them to engage. So if your dad
Hmm.
worked like at the plant and he was
Hmm.
on a midnight shift,
Yeah,
well, you're up in the day, he sleep.
sleep exactly.
And
Yeah,
then
so
if he has 9 or 10 kids,
yeah.
he is tired. He's trying to get overtime too. So he may not only work the midnight shift, he might work the day shift too,
Hmm.
or the afternoon and midnight, so he can make sure he has enough. Because with that
Right.
many kids, I don't think they was doing daycare back then. Mom had to stay home and watch the day.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I think that was it. The shift, the
Hmm.
number of kids, and if they had a job that afforded them to be off on the weekend,
Yeah.
or the job may not have afforded, they couldn't be off because
It
they had
just
so
could
many
be.
mouths to feed.
Right, for sure. I mean, that's all of those things play into it. And again, when I mention Dale's pop, I'm honestly I'm talking about his stepdad. Like I don't have a relationship with his real father.
Well,
But
I mean, whoever raised you,
yeah.
that's who you
Oh, for sure.
normally designate, and that's
All day long.
that's the theme of the podcast. That
Yeah.
because you are the biological, but you don't interact, then you're not the daddy.
Right. Yeah.
In my opinion,
No, I
dads
agree.
are interacting physically, emotionally, and financially with their
Hmm.
children. That's why they get that title. But
Exactly.
yeah, so did he have a? He must have had a Monday through Friday job, or he had his own business.
Right. So what it was is just like most of the men back in that day, he was working at Chrysler.
Okay.
And he did work a Monday through Friday shift, but he worked afternoons, right? So you figure by the time he gets off work, like especially as a child, by the time he gets off work, I'm going to sleep. So he gets home around 11:30, something like that. I'm asleep because like I got to be up at I got to get up at 6 to go to class. So that's how those years went. And then on the weekends, it was kind of like I had buddies like outside. So like on the weekends, I'm outside. I'm hanging with my friends, and we never just really had a chance to connect for real. Like I would honestly have our conversations would be limited to like asking for things. Like, so pops, can I get this? Can I get that? And I need this for school. All right, that was our conversations. Like I had a lot of conversations with, and you know what? Again, this is and I know obviously we're talking about dads, but this was a mom and a father thing. Like honestly, I most of my conversations were with my older sister. Like the funny thing about about me is like for a long time, like nobody even knew my parents. Like obviously the people I lived on the block with, but like at school and stuff like that, like my sister like did everything. So like they really thought that my sister was taking care of me. We're only different by 5 years, but like they really thought she was the one who was doing everything because like she would be the one going to parent teacher conferences. She would be the one picking me up from school. Like she was the one that people recognize when they see me.
Wow.
So, and that was a thing for a long time. And we would and still to this day we joke about this when people talk about giving kids birthday parties. Like me and her, like we've never as children we never had birthday parties. Like this was just it just wasn't a thing, and I never thought anything about it. Like we didn't like my moms would make a cake, like what I'm saying, and we would eat ice cream and cake or whatever. It'd just be like kind of us, and that was it. So
So
yeah,
but your mom worked outside of the home.
yeah, yep,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
why.
yeah, for sure.
Because back in the day, it was so many, stay at
Homemakers,
home.
yeah,
Yeah, and that was the proper term for it back then.
mm,
Homemakers.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I respect that. Like I feel like especially if you've got a two parent household,
Right.
if by whatever reason you're able to financially afford it, I I don't think there's nothing that can be replaced with a parent who's always at the house. I know that you probably don't want to be that parent that's always at the house, but hey, I'm telling you, I think it makes a difference for kids. I've never actually experienced it, but I feel like that with one parent always there, I think it could be helpful for the kid. Definitely, a killer for your social life, but
Yes. Well,
right,
I was a single mom, and
okay,
I wished that I could stay at home.
stay
I wish
home,
that I
yeah,
could stay at home too. Yeah,
yeah,
so it does make a difference. It makes
I,
a big difference because my mom was there
mhm,
for us.
right,
We come home from school, and the dinner table would be set, and we would sit down after school. Wash our hands, sit down, and
mhm,
we sit down and eat dinner together, and we talked.
okay,
Yep. And then after that, dishes were cleaned and all that stuff. And then
mhm,
my brothers, they go
right,
outside, and I would go outside. So
yeah,
yeah, that was a blessing. That was a
I
blessing.
I bet,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
My dad died when I was two, so I have
Oh, okay,
yeah
gotcha,
about that two parent stuff. But
yeah,
yeah, that was a blessing, and I wish that everybody could have their mom at home with them
yeah.
when they're growing up for that foundation, and
Hmm.
a dad that would be active in their lives.
Right. For
And
sure.
when I worked at the mall, this is what helped me to think about doing this podcast.
Hmm.
I'm working in the mall, and I'm telling you, there were so many dads there with their kids,
Hmm.
more so than the women. Uh,
Right.
and I guess this might have been right after COVID because women actually had to go in the building to work, and maybe the men
Right.
stay at home or whatever. I don't know what it was, but there were a lot of men pushing their babies in the strollers, you know, uh,
Right.
pushing them around in the strollers and stuff. I even watched this little guy. He must have been 1 year old, and his sister and his dad had him in that mall, and he learned how to walk. Within 2 weeks, he kept falling. His little sister, was about three. She
Yeah.
picked him up, He started all over again. He came back probably the next day. He was barely running, but he was walking and running. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, look at these dads out here. On the weekend, the husbands are pushing the buggy still.
Yeah.
There, when the wives go inside of the stores to shop,
Hmm.
the dad is out there next to the water fountain watching the kids rip them
Yeah.
and all that. They were so active, and I was like, man, these fathers, these dads are not getting credit. They are actively involved, and I'm talking about kids
Exactly.
from, like 4 month olds to 3, 4, 5, some of them 9 years old. Dad is actively involved.
Exactly.
And I was like, wow, this is so impressive. I said, people don't see this. They don't understand what's going on. I said, this is a new day.
It is, and there are a lot more active fathers than there used to be. And again, like when I say active, I mean in that type of format. Because I know before people felt like I'm a good dad because I'm paying my child support all the time. I pick up my kid every other weekend or whatever. But like now it's like people like especially the guys that I know like they really are like going and playing football, having conversations like these dudes is talking to their kids like this. I'm laughing. I'm laughing, but it's like these dudes is talking to their kids. It's like it's a lot of fathers who don't talk to their kids. I mean, it's some mamas too, but like for the fathers, I think that there's a hesitancy in communication because we never learn how to communicate for real. So now we don't want to say the wrong thing, and we don't know how to come across things, or we don't know how to bring up subjects. So like that whole communication barrier is not only just in romantic relationships, but in familial relationships as well. And I think that's where a lot of our communication problems come from, just stem from not being able to express what's going on in our heads. Like there's some like to this day, like obviously me and my old man are a lot tighter now, and we have all kinds of conversations. But it's still to this day I have to remind him that like use your words, bro. Like if you like whatever it is you're trying to say, just say it. Like at this point, we super grown. Like all right, don't be afraid to hurt my feelings. Which he definitely got past that. He just say whatever you want to say now. That's old people stuff right there. But
What?
um but just being comfortable expressing like those ideas. I think before for whatever reason we just weren't. And like I hats off to these fathers this generation and the even the generation below us because like they're talking to their kids, and I think that's what was missing. Like there wasn't enough conversation. Like when you and I I make light of this, even it's not funny though, but like when people get in trouble, like especially when boys get in trouble, and the mom's always saying like my son would never do something like this. Like if you ever had a conversation with this kid, like you would know because like we know from having conversations. I know what he's capable of.
Right.
So like yeah, just those conversations that part I can't say I regret it because I got lucky. Like so, like for me, there were a lot of older guys on my block who then became that kind of big brother father figure kind of thing. So I didn't miss the adult male conversation. So thankfully, I got lucky. But there's some guys who don't have a relationship with their father in the house, like they're not having conversations, but then they run into the wrong older dudes on the street, and that's how they get lost in the sauce. So it's yeah, I got lucky. I can't lie.
Yeah. I think that back when I was growing up, and because I'm older than you, um, parents talked at their kids, and they were not because I know I wasn't allowed to have an opinion
Mm,
because I was young. So when my mom was talking at the table, I tried to say something. They say, "You don't know what you're talking about. Be quiet." Because when you're young, 6 years seems like a long elementary, and
hmm.
they're graduating from high school, so that seems
Right.
like they're really older. But once get to your 50s and you realize we ain't that old, we ain't that far apart.
Not
But
at all. Not at
they were
all.
two schools removed. I was
Right.
in elementary and they're about to graduate from high school. So it seemed like they were much, much older. But
They
yeah,
really weren't.
yeah,
Yeah.
you weren't allowed to really talk. You didn't really you didn't have an opinion.
Right.
So, and I tried, and my grandson reminded me of that. He said, Grandma, he said, if you guys would have just told me why instead of saying, don't do it because I told you, because I said so,
Hmm.
he said, I probably would have missed, doing a whole lot of dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, and that was the way we only knew the way we were raised to
Hmm.
do what we were told to do because my mother said so.
True.
Period. You
True.
weren't allowed to have an opinion or anything like that. But with my kids, I always told them when the teacher called and said you did X, Y, and Z, listen, you're mine. I know who you are. I know what you're capable of doing.
Exactly.
So I'm going to ask you what happened.
Exactly.
I need you to tell me what happened, and you're allowed to tell me and that you're angry. I got mad. I did this and that. I'm not going to cut you off. I want to
Yeah.
hear what happened. So
Yeah.
tell me in your own words how you feel. If you were mad, sad, whatever, you get to express yourself.
Yeah. It's definitely gonna be worse if you lie. So
And
that's
they did.
yeah.
They told me, but I wasn't allowed to tell how I felt.
Right.
It was like I was there, but I really wasn't there. I wasn't important,
Gotcha.
because I was younger.
Right.
And so my opinion really didn't matter. So when I got the opportunity to talk, I
Right.
shut up. I talk a lot now. But
Got-
that's one of the things parents didn't believe that kids, they say children should be seen and not heard.
Yeah. Definitely heard that before.
You could be in a room with your mother and her friend and they could be talking
Hmm.
and you could not remind your mother that last week she said something different than she telling this lady right now,
Oh yeah. You better not.
right? Because she cut her eyes at you,
Uh huh.
or you get back, you get backhand,
Right.
and
No, seriously.
something like that. You were not allowed to dip in conversations, but that's changed a little bit. And I think one of the things that changed too, with raising kids, was when crack came in.
Hmm.
And these moms were on the street, these dads were on the streets, and so grandma started raising them
Yeah.
late 80s, early 90s.
Hmm.
And at that same time I can remember they had that MTV, the video thing going on,
Yep.
and the kids could sit in front of the TV and watch videos all day long,
Right. Because you gotta imagine, right? So we're
yeah,
talking about fathers. A generation up from me. So we're talking about my father
yeah,
not knowing how to really communicate with me. So
right.
then you figure if you take that out the equation and you're talking about a grandfather, he didn't even know how to talk to my daddy. So he don't know how to talk to me. So now we just in trouble.
Yeah, go watch TV, go
It's-
outside.
Go outside, right?
Yeah, go outside. And you, uh, what my other daughter, she just told me, she was over on the west side,
Mhm.
and a little guy that plays and goes to school with her son,
Okay.
he was about a mile away from his house on a
Wow.
bike. And she
Okay.
called his mother and said, "Did you know your son was over?" She said, "He told me he was just going outside to play."
He went
So
outside.
he went outside and he's just riding. He's just riding. He wasn't given a boundary. Kids were given a boundary. Some of them had to stay in the yard. Someone had to stay
Yeah.
in front of the house. Someone had to be home by the street lights,
Hmm.
coming on and stuff like that. That's where the dads come in at, if you don't, there's
Right.
consequences.
Right. Yeah. They were the enforcers.
Yes, there were some
Yeah.
consequences. But
Uh huh.
yeah, I do. I'm wondering. I mean, how much of an effect does a man have in the house?
I mean that presence though, the presence there is still something.
All right.
Now again, there does have to be at least some communication. Like I said, I think that possibly I did get lucky because of the outside male influences. And again, not to take any shots at my old man, but then I look at how how they were raised, and that was the same kind of relationship that him and his father had. So I
Right.
think that I think we've transcended our relationship right now. I think it's to me it appears, from the outside looking in, it appears to be 10 times better than what his and his dad's was. So I think that's a good thing. And to be quite honest with you, I think it's kind of crazy how it worked out, but I really do think it is because my mom passed though. So like we still, we had a good relationship, but like when I went out to Colorado, was living out there for a while, and like I would talk to my mom's like every day, So she ended up passing while I was out there, but I just remember talking to her every day, and she'd be like, your old man in the basement, like you want me to get the phone, and I'll be like, I'll talk to him tomorrow, that kind of thing, like I'm talking to her every day, but to talk to him was like less important, right? And I'm just thinking back to those times, like that's how we were conditioned though. So that's how our relationship had been conditioned, and it was like, I guess to a degree, it was all right for me to disregard him, and that's kind of messed up too, right?
Yeah.
Because like that's disregarding. Like he really like 20 feet away, and I'm like, I'll talk to him tomorrow. That's crazy, right? So
Right.
then after she got sick, and then like I got kind of accustomed to calling every day. So as opposed to talking to her, like I would talk to him. So when she eventually passed away, then me and him would talk every day. So then I think after that is how we got to where we are now. Unfortunately, I guess it did take the death of my mom's to get us that close. But I think that again, these are just different generations. Like these dads now they're good dads, man. Like a lot of them are, some of them are struggling like financially. They can't get everything that the kid needs, but like they're giving them that attention and that conversation and just the somewhere to be vulnerable and comfortable at the same time. I think
Right.
that's a balancing act for any parent is to be vulnerable and protective at the same time. I know that's probably a tough thing to do, and again, that's probably why I ain't got no kids now because I ain't trying to deal with all that. But but I understand what goes into it though. So
Right.
so shout out to all the dads who out there, who might be struggling financially, but like they're giving in to their kids though, because a lot of dads is at home and they paying the bills. Everybody cool, like we ain't getting kicked out or nothing, but like they don't know you,
Right.
like they don't know who you are, and you
Yeah.
don't know them. And well, I will like what you mentioned early though about seeing all those dads out and like after COVID. I think at that point because people were forced to be inside
Mhm.
together, I
Yeah.
think they had to figure out how to start talking to each other. So
Yes.
that was kind of a blessing too.
Oh yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. That's so weird though that you say, yeah, well, he over there, my dad's over there, but I talk to him
I
like
thought, yeah, seriously. And I
but
had to really, I had to really look back at that and say, like, that's on me though. Like, that's selfish on my part. So,
well, also I don't know what selfish. It was just you didn't know him, and you
yeah,
had been surviving without him for so long. You didn't of him in your life. He wasn't. I mean, he wasn't. To you, he wasn't vital at the
oh
time.
no, that's well,
You were.
I can't say that.
Yeah,
he was definitely vital.
yeah,
we just we just don't have conversations.
yeah, you were self sufficient, so you was like he ain't going, or you kind of like took him for granted. Is that closer to
And
like
you know what? I hate to say it like that, but sort of like, and he's always been like a stable person. Like as far as like financially and stuff. So like whenever times got tough or whatever, and I can't figure some things out, I like we might have a whole argument about it, but he's always been there to help me out, like to keep me from falling on my face. And I think for a while it really did it may have become transactional like that. You know what I'm saying? And then but then it was later on in life when I realized like we need like a whole relationship, not just the
financial part?
you my dad, take care of me relationship, but like you my dad, like let's kick it. like for real. So, and then you know what? It might have started evolving more too. Like when I started smoking weed with him, that probably helped. I ain't gonna lie, it probably helped. It's like we have something in common now, so we can smoke weed and we can talk about life. So shout out to my old man who was very proud that he smoked weed since the '60s. Like he always say that. So
Yeah.
shout out
Why
to my
is he
old
so
man.
proud of
Love
that?
him to death though. Yeah, he proud of it.
Why is he so proud of that?
Because he says so many people have so many other vices
Oh,
that like really tear them down. He said like he ain't really did nothing but smoke weed and like you see he survived. So I don't know. They got good genes though, because my granddad smoked cigars and a tobacco out of a pipe, and
okay.
like he lived to be like in his 80s, and it wasn't even from like no cancer or nothing. So I don't know. And then you got some people who smoke one cigarette and they die from cancer. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything's just weird on that tip. But anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked.
It's okay. Look, it's just you and me today. It's
It
just you
is.
and me today.
Yeah,
Um,
but those dads being there is important though.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about we take a break?
Oh yeah, yeah, we could
Be
do
right.
that, huh?
Yeah, let's take a break. We'll be
All
right back.
right.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Black fathers matter because we need to see that symbol. That image of the father is very important. It's important to the young lady, it's important to that young man.
Being present, being there. But even when I'm away, I find a way to be present somehow, remotely.
The number one rule to raising kids is we don't know shit. And get comfortable with not knowing shit, thinking that you know stuff and that your kids are your teachers. It's our job to steward them and to observe them and to watch what they're into. And as long as it's safe, we're here to edify them. We're not here to try to lock them into what we think they're supposed to be. And so those absentee parents just give up. They're like, I ain't trying to do all that work.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're talking to my producer, Q, and we're just talking about dads that are in the home but not actively involved, and they're mostly providers. So, Q, with your dad, you said that you would really have a conversation with him when you kind of needed like a financial advice or something like that.
Financial advice, finances.
Oh,
No,
money.
so yeah, but like again, like with him, it was all it was just all taking care of things, making sure that everything was taken care of. So definitely a provider. He tried. I'll tell you this. He definitely tried to give me some lessons in financial literacy. A lot of those I didn't listen to, obviously, because I ruined my credit in college doing credit cards and stuff, which he warned me about.
Mm,
But of course, he always told me that. So he like super old school. So he's always lived by the idea that if I can't afford it in cash, then I won't use credit, right?
okay.
So that's an old school way of thinking though, because I think these days we feel like um, we're going to buy everything with someone else's money. I think that's the way capitalism is built at this point. Everything is off of credit, like in real life. Like nobody
Right.
really wants to spend their actual money. I don't think that like the for real assets of financial literacy was available to the generation before me in order to even pour into me like we have it now.
Right.
I think that now there's so much information available that we are the gatekeepers at this point. So if we have kids that don't completely understand their credit and what that value system is as far as credit and debt ratios, then we failed because that information is available at this point. Now
Right.
beforehand, credit cards was kind of new. Like buying things on credit wasn't new, but like credit cards were new. People didn't really have debit cards back then. That was kind of a new thing that was coming out. So like I can't fault them, like him or my mom, for not having like some more information that could have made it a little easier for me not to completely kill my credit in my 20s. But but I think now though, again, this is what is going to make this generation and beyond better fathers is because we have that information. and now we get a chance to, give that to our, to our offsprings. So for him, he tried like basically to scare me away from using credit, and I didn't listen to him. And again, I killed my credit at that point.
Who did you listen to?
Nobody.
So
Yeah.
because I know I went to Wayne State,
Mhm.
and I was on campus, and they would be, they had a pop-up shops inside of the mall. So you're walking past and somebody say, hey, you want to buy this? You want to get this? Well,
Mhm.
at Wayne State, they used to have students, because they get paid, to sign people up for credit cards. So
Exactly. And
I
that's
got
how I got hit.
Visa, I don't know, I was 20 something,
Hmm.
$500.
Yeah.
I was going to Burger King
Exactly. Domino's,
with
ordering
yeah,
pizza.
my food. I was
That's
buying
it.
food. In addition to my books, I was
Mhm.
buying food with a credit card.
That's it. You done paid $3,000 for some pizza.
Who does that? Who buys
Us,
food with a credit card?
because we don't know no better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So.
parents are telling you that. So,
Hmm.
yeah. So the best advice your dad was trying to tell you was, if you can't afford it with cash,
Yeah, don't use
right.
credit. And to this day, like I've changed my spending habits and learned some things now. And I live by that to a certain degree, depending on what it is. Like menial things, yeah. Like if I can't really afford it, I'm not putting it on credit. But like when I'm now, I actively use credit for a purpose, though, right? So at this point, I'm putting things on the credit card and paying it off, and buying things and paying it off because I'm trying to get my credit score up. Like I'm not. I use it as a tool of my own, as opposed to like using it out of necessity.
Right.
Because once you use a credit card out of necessity, then you are now entrapped into what they call the lower pits of capitalism. Because like at the end of the day, though, like that's the way capitalism is set up. Like it doesn't work if somebody's not in debt. Like it just doesn't work. So you just don't want to be that one that's in debt. So
True.
I live like that now, and all of my friends, like now we're all kind of fiscally intelligent, I guess,
Right.
to the degree where we can actually check each other. Like, bro, don't do that. That's not a good idea.
Right.
And now, what I don't agree with him on, obviously he was older at the point, but what I don't agree with him on is that he's always felt like after we start having these conversations, he's always felt that he was too old to make investments. Now, see, this is something that we don't agree on.
Right.
I think he's thinking about the old school investments where you're making an investment and it's going to take 40 years for it to materialize. Like there's different ways and different things to invest in that can get you a more immediate return. So that it's hard to get past that barrier because he's still stuck in that old way of thinking.
Right.
But I think that's the one thing that he told me about investing that I'm glad I didn't really listen to. I took it to heart for a while because he would just be like, "Well, it's too late to start doing that now." Like at this point, it's never too late.
It's never
Because
too-
yeah, because at the end of the day, like even if I don't get it, like I'm trying to pass it to somebody. Like somebody's gonna benefit from it, so we'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, two of our guests, they said something. Marshall Lyons, he said his dad told him. He said when he asked his dad to co-sign for a car,
Oh,
and he told him, he said, "Son, my name is all I have. I can't let you mess up my name."
mhm.
Now you can go back and ask that man how much of a down payment with cash you can get. You have to remember that your name, when it comes to credit, that's all you have.
That's it.
When he told me that, I lived by that rule. I was like, I'm not co-signing for nobody, and I don't even rent. When I was younger, I would rent cars for people, to go out of town and stuff.
Oh yeah, no.
No, not anymore. So dads, when it comes, some of them they know, and then Delvin Christian, his dad told him, if you cannot afford to purchase something with your income,
Mhm.
don't buy it. For instance, his daughter may have moved into a apartment with a roommate.
Yeah,
Well,
I
if
remember
she
you said that.
cannot afford it when the roommate, if the roommate decides they don't want to live there or something happens to the roommate,
Hmm.
and he says she shouldn't do it because
Yeah,
you don't want to lower your standards.
true.
You don't want to be living in a luxury apartment because it was due to you having a roommate. And then something happened to your roommate, and now you got to go try to find something that's like
Below what you wanted.
$8. You know, it's not
Yeah.
the same. You don't want to reduce your standards of living
Right.
over that you
Nah,
can afford it on your own.
that's for sure. I
think
think that is good advice.
Yeah, I think that was excellent advice. If you're
Mhm.
going to buy something, make sure you can pay for it for yourself.
Hmm.
You know, so that you don't have to, like, you get you a nice car,
Hmm.
and you and your friend are sharing the car note. Your
Nah,
friend lose
I
their
would
job.
never do that.
Yeah, your friend lose your job. Now you got to turn the car back in,
Right.
and credit messed up.
Yeah,
So,
I would never do that with a car ever.
well, people they playing stuff together. That
Yeah,
was back in the day. Today you can't even do that. I don't believe.
yeah,
Maybe you can. You can buy a used car, probably with somebody else's name on there or whatever. But
maybe. Yeah, I ain't sure, but I would never do that though. But the roommate thing though, that's definitely something to keep in mind. I think
yeah,
we've all had those experiences, unfortunately, because um, you want some nice things, and then sometimes it comes at a higher price, and you got somebody who you think that you can trust, and a lot of times when money gets involved, like you kind of find out about people. I guess I just say it like that.
yeah. Well, my brother used to when I got my first summer job, because you could start working summer jobs when he was 14.
Hmm.
He gave me this advice. He said, when y'all go downtown to shop, he said you put your bus fare in one pocket and put your spending money in the other. And when the spending money is gone, it's time for you to come home.
Right.
And in addition to that, he said you buy what you need first,
Hmm.
then you get what you want. So underwear, socks, and all that, because we were going back
Yeah.
to buy our school clothes. That's what our summer job was for, to buy our school clothes. Get
Gotcha.
your underwear, socks, and all that. First check, next check, you buy your outfits and all that. But always putting bus fare in one pocket
Right.
and spending money in the other.
Yeah, because you gotta get home.
Oh, that's right. In addition, with the bus fare, you put a little money in there for you to eat while you're down there, because you're gonna be gone probably 5 or 6 hours. So you put you some lunch money in there and your bus fare.
Right.
But that worked for me. I think I did pretty good with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But
Hey, so I real quick, I just got a story about that, right? So
okay.
this ain't got nothing to do with being a father though, but I still want to tell it. Now you're talking about going shopping, right? So when I was in New York, I did an internship at Black Enterprise when I was out in New York, and I guess it kind of do pertain to my old man. But I remember being there, and I would get paid like twice every other week, and like my money was so budgeted to like where I had to pay for where I was staying, and I paid for food every day because there was no refrigerator where I was at, because I was staying at the YMCA. So
Yeah.
like I would have to purchase food every day. So everything was like completely spaced out. But then I remember one Friday when we got paid, or the Friday we got paid, we had a trip, a business, or what you call it, like a retreat or whatever with the office. So we went up north somewhere, and they gave us our checks. So when I got back though, it was too late to cash my check at the bodega around the corner from the place where I normally cash it at. So I got back home. I was staying in Harlem, and I was just like, "There's a million bodegas around the way, so I'm gonna be able to cash it, right?" But then
Right.
I'm realizing, like, I'm from Michigan, and this is a New York check, and it's a lot of scamming going on at that time. This is like 2001, so like it's a lot of scamming going on, so nobody would cash it. So at this point, again, like I said, my money is completely budgeted out, and at this point, I didn't have any money. Like I had $0. I had a check in my pocket, and I just remembered same thing like you said. Like my old man used to always tell me that about at least having some money to get home, and I didn't even have that. So that was one of those lessons that I really wish I had brought with me, right? So I made it home, but I couldn't get anywhere to cash the check. But long story short, what I ended up having to do is I somehow talked the cab driver into taking me back down to near the job that Saturday morning, and allowing me to go cash the check before I could pay him. I mean, luckily he did that for me, because if he hadn't, like I don't know what I would have did. I wouldn't have been able to get to work. I wouldn't have been able to eat. I wouldn't have been able to pay my room and board.
You'd have
Those
just
were things.
Daddy, and he'd have Western Union you some money.
I'm sure he would have, but like I didn't. It was one of those moments like, all right, you got to be an adult, bro. Like I was 21 at the time. Like I was young, but like, come on, dog. You gotta do better. And see, those are the times I think that even if the father isn't like completely like all involved in everything, I think that having his presence there throughout my life, even if we never really had this specific conversation, I think that was one of the things that kind of forced me to persevere on my own while I was living out there during the internship. So I just want to piggyback on that to say that even if this father isn't having all the conversations with his kids or isn't able to, have all that emotional connection, I think there is always going to be a plus side to, having that father in the home. So.
Yeah, my mom, she started us, each one of us, when we had our summer job, she took us to, it was MBD, which is now Chase Bank.
Oh, yeah, I remember MBD.
And we had to get a savings account. So we did not go to any stores or anything like that. When you got your check, you took it to the bank.
To the bank. Yeah.
Put in $5 a week. Got it. So that's what I did. I used to cash my check, and I would have $5 put in my savings,
Right.
and take the rest home. And then I would always, have $10 or $15. I've always saved up a little bit, and as I've gotten older, an adult now, I try to have some money in the house. So, yeah.
I gotta get better with that. Like I do everything electronically.
I even keep $20 in my car.
Yeah, I gotta get better.
Yeah, because I've gotten so used to debit and credit cards. Well, mostly
Exactly.
debit cards. That I just, I'm like, what?
Cash only.
Yeah, cash. What? Lord,
Exactly.
corned beef, Asian corned beef. They don't take credit cards.
Nah.
And so we went in and ordered. Yeah, me and my honey, we went in and ordered sandwiches. And back when I was eating meat, and the lady said we don't do cards. I was like, what? Like,
right. Well, you ain't getting paid.
right. Like now you go to Little Caesars or somewhere, and they say they are cashless. They have machines that do the reverse. You put your card in, they give you money out.
Yeah.
Or you put money. I'm sorry, you put money in, and they give you a card.
A card. What?
Yeah, they say this is a cashless operation. Nobody.
Yeah.
They don't touch
Man.
cash. Okay.
Yeah, they trying to move to all digital, and what they trying to do with you is like convince you that it's safer to not be carrying around cash, and then next thing you know, we all digital.
Yeah. Hence the Bitcoins that came out.
Mhm.
Ooh, I got introduced to those, and I was like, oh, that's a scam. But I think about now, if I would have listened.
Man, if you'd have listened.
Yeah.
If you'd have listened. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like the man that was offered the Coca-Cola stock. You like,
Uh-huh.
that sounds too good to be true. Yep.
Yeah.
I went to a nice little conference, me and my girlfriend, and the guy was telling us how these Bitcoins is gonna be this and that, and I was like, when you don't understand stuff, you don't believe it, so you say, nah, I don't sound right.
You don't want to lose your money, man. But I tell you what, if you'd have got in there, whoo.
Yeah, I would be rich, because when I bought them in 2020, they were the Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I was flying high, and then after the COVID was over, I was like, what happened to my investment?
Right.
But hey, lesson learned.
Nah, for sure.
Yeah. But men are, even if they don't physically, and if they don't engage with you physically all the time, if they're there to be your backup, get pressed to make a decision, that's good that your dad is there for that. And also to financially, support you.
And sometimes even if the conversation isn't being had, just seeing that man doing whatever it is that he does, sometimes that helps as well. I mean, obviously seeing him go to work every
Yeah.
day kind of adds to my work ethic. So even if we didn't have a conversation, I see that he gets up, goes to work every day, and does something for his family. So
Right.
even if we don't ever actually communicate that, like, I see it. So I think that part is still important. So yeah, I obviously it's icing on the cake if you can also add the conversation and the affection and the emotional connection. But just being able to see that man that looks like you doing what he's supposed to do, because again, I think all of that is relative. As long as he's doing what he's supposed to do, then I think it'll have a positive effect, especially on daughters. Like I know that it's the boys too that benefit a lot, but I think it helps a lot for daughters as well. It helps a lot for everybody. I think the wife or the baby mom, I think everybody benefits from a genuinely effective male in the house. I think everybody does.
Because that protection is very important. I mean, to know,
Mhm.
like, me living by myself, prior to me being married, I had a house, and
Mhm.
you never knew who was watching you.
Right.
Having strangers knock on your door.
Hmm.
But after I got married, I could come in the house at 10. I could come in the house at 9. It'd be dark outside. Call my husband and say, okay, I'm on my way home.
Yeah.
And when I hit that driveway, that side door would open before I got in my garage. And I just felt so safe. That
Yeah.
was important to me to know that I
Exactly.
could go home and not have to worry about getting in the house safely.
Yeah.
So,
No,
knowing that I was protected.
for sure.
And
That's
just
important.
yeah, just feeling protected. And I mean, any family, I believe, knowing that if somebody knocks on the door at 11 o'clock at night or
Mhm.
whatever, you ain't got to worry. Your dad gonna get up and go answer the door.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, and, and he gonna go up with his friends, or as my aunt would call her gun, I have my brothers and sisters with me. I'm not worried.
I like that.
Yeah. Like, she came to our house. She lived in Jersey, and she came here to Detroit to visit us. And she came about 2:00 in the morning.
Mhm.
And she called our phone, and there was a pay phone across the street. They had a phone booth. You probably don't know about that. There was a phone booth, and she called. And
I'm hip.
nobody heard the phone but me. I got up. I
Mhm.
think I was probably 7 or 8. I answered the phone, and she said, "Look, whatever." She called us all these little nicknames, and
Yeah.
she said, "What you doing up?" I said, "What you doing outside
Right.
by yourself?" And she said, I opened the door for her when she came in, and she said, "I'm not by myself. I got my brothers and sisters with me." And of course, I looked around her.
Like, what is you talking
I don't
about?
see nobody. And when she came in, she laid her stuff on the table. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay."
Like, oh, those brothers and sisters.
Yeah. I have 6 aunties and aunts,
Mhm.
but I didn't see none of them behind this aunt. So
Right.
like, what's she talking about? Yeah. And then because she used to carry 2. She had one in her pocket and one in her bosom. So,
Oh, okay. Oh, she was ready.
oh yeah, she came from New York. Yeah,
Got you.
She-
Okay.
yeah, to go out and gamble and all that stuff. So she had to be protected. So
For sure.
yeah,
I did that.
but yeah, that protection that man gives being in the house,
Mhm.
if it's nothing like it. You know that if you get into trouble, you can run home, and there's
Yeah.
no one in your house
Right.
because they know your
Exactly.
dad is there.
No, yeah, for sure. And I definitely remember that as a kid too. Like, it is a level of comfort knowing, like, all right, so I know the old man in there. We straight.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Even if we wasn't having a conversation, like, I know he in there, and he ain't gonna let nobody kill me. So I guess we good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The good thing, even though we think that they have to be active with it. It's more. It's a silent confidence
It is.
that goes on when a husband, when a dad is in
Mhm.
the house with his family. There's a
For
silent
sure.
confidence, security that people feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though everybody, has, and then we have to remember they know what they know because they watch, like you said, you watched your dad Because
Mhm.
children, we do what we see.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
don't do what they say do.
Right.
We do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you became had better work ethics because your dad got up and went to work every day. You
For
got
sure. Yeah, that's one thing. He not gonna let you slide on that. Like whatever it is you're doing, you need to be consistent with it and be successful at it. So, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned that we've never said that audibly, but I know that's what he's giving me though. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, even without saying it, I received it.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. For those of you who have watched this episode, if you've got any comments about men being in the house but not totally engaging physically, and verbally, if you'd like to share those comments, please do so below. And we just want to thank you for watching this episode of Real Dads Speak. And hope we'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks
Yep.
a lot.
And don't forget to like, share,
Share
and
and-
subscribe.
I always forget that part.